In some sort of crude sense, which no vulgarity, no humor, no overstatement can quite extinguish, the physicists have known sin, and this is a knowledge which they cannot lose. On December 8, 1941, the day after Pearl Harbor, the United States entered World War II by declaring war on Japan. The arms race between the Axis powers and the Allies put pressure on the U.S. to develop a more powerful arsenal of weapons. Emerging discoveries in science and technology allowed for the development of the nuclear weapon. The U.S. had to act quickly to create such a superweapon before the Axis powers did. Starting in June of 1942, the U.S. government initiated the program to create the atomic bomb called the Manhattan Project. J. Robert Oppenheimer was chosen to direct the Manhattan Project in Los Alamos, New Mexico. While Oppenheimer is most famous for his work on the Manhattan Project in creating the atomic bomb, his legacy is more complex. Oppenheimer's political views and his life exhibit significant internal conflict over his role in creating such a powerful and destructive weapon. On the morning of July 16, 1945, the plutonium test bomb called Trinity successfully fired. The success of Trinity represented the success of Oppenheimer in the Manhattan Project. Certainly, Oppenheimer was pleased that his work had succeeded in creating the atomic bomb, yet he did have some reservations about the capability of this weapon. Trinity represented the end of the Manhattan Project, but it was only the beginning of Oppenheimer's conflict over his role in the creation of the bomb and its later use against Japan. In October 1942, Leslie Groves, General of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, selected Oppenheimer to direct the Manhattan Project. Oppenheimer was a professor at the University of California, Berkeley, and at the California Institute of Technology. While he had made some significant discoveries, he felt that the Manhattan Project was his chance to make a difference in the world. Groves' selection of Oppenheimer was somewhat controversial. Some scientists resented his directing position on the Manhattan Project because they did not like being directed by anything but a Nobel Prize-winning scientist. The scientists and the government initially had concerns about his discipline and his ability to stay focused on one project. Also, while inspecting Oppenheimer for the Manhattan Project, the FBI raised suspicions that Oppenheimer was involved with the Soviet Union due to his leftist politics and communist acquaintances. Despite these concerns, General Groves insisted that Oppenheimer's intelligence, rationality, and charisma were indispensable to the project, and raved that Oppenheimer was a real genius. As director of the project, Oppenheimer was diplomatic, respectful, and wholeheartedly devoted to the project. For instance, in a conference with Groves, he suggested that the project be situated in a remote location with ideal dry conditions for the bomb. This was to keep the scientists isolated, but together, and to more easily keep the project secret. Oppenheimer and Groves decided on the desert in Los Alamos, New Mexico. His charisma was ideal for his position because he had to recruit other scientists to the project. His magnetic personality helped convince these scientists to join the project. Groves liked Oppenheimer because he was easy to understand when he discussed science. While a brilliant physicist, Oppenheimer was also an able communicator who was patient and clear in his explanations of difficult scientific theory. Groves signed Oppenheimer's security clearance papers despite the complaints of other military and government officials. Physicist Isidore Rabi remarked that Oppenheimer's appointment was a real stroke of genius on the part of General Groves, who was not generally considered to be a genius. Robert Oppenheimer brought unique leadership to the Manhattan Project. His charismatic personality and scientific attitude complemented Groves' strict military approaches. He did not agree with Groves' policies of compartmentalization and militarization of the project, so he created his own policies. He believed the free exchange of ideas at Los Alamos was vital to the success of the project. He believed that there must be no barriers for freedom of inquiry. There is no place for dogma in science. The scientist is free and must be free to ask any question, to doubt any assertion, to seek for any advice, to correct any errors. Oppenheimer also made sure that everyone working on the project stayed on task and was well cared for. Because of Oppenheimer's devotion to the project and effective leadership, the development of the bomb progressed quickly and smoothly. Oppenheimer was relatively pleased with his work at Los Alamos and how smoothly the operation went. His first reaction upon witnessing the success of the Trinity test was relief. He simply said, "It worked." Yet his second reaction was horror of the destructive capability of the bomb. On August 6, 1945, President Harry S. Truman gave orders to drop the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan. 3 days later, the second dropped on Nagasaki. Oppenheimer became an instant hero in the United States, but the dropping of the bomb was globally controversial because President Truman was not equipped to make the decision. President Roosevelt had died without properly informing Vice President Truman of the Manhattan Project and the existence of the atomic bomb. So when Truman became president and learned about the bomb, he quickly decided to drop it on Japan. This may have been the wrong decision, for it had devastating effects in Japan. Throughout the project, Oppenheimer exhibited a single-mindedness in creating a successful weapon. After completion of the project, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the end of World War II, he was more conflicted about the global impacts of this extremely dangerous new weapon. He and the project significantly contributed to a new age in warfare, political methods and interactions, foreign affairs, and balance of power. In various interviews, he gives differing opinions of his legacy. On one occasion, he assures that he does not regret his role in the Manhattan Project and the resulting destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. My role was to preside over an effort to make, as soon as possible, something practical, but I would do it again. Yet he later stated, while choking back tears, that after the Trinity test he knew he was partially responsible for creating a new age with enormous destructive capabilities. Oppenheimer did not regret his devotion to the Manhattan Project and its contribution to the success of the United States in the war. He was, however, conflicted about the specific use and later implications of the bomb. He and other scientists had seen their project as necessary to win the race against Germany to be the first to develop the atomic bomb. With Germany already defeated, using the bomb against Japan seemed to them unjustified. Robert Oppenheimer's post-war career is very controversial, with many differing opinions and accusations regarding Oppenheimer's actions. Oppenheimer's inner conflict over the morality of the atomic bomb led him to firmly oppose further nuclear development in the United States. After the war, Oppenheimer chaired the General Advisors Committee of the Atomic Energy Commission, which Congress established after World War II to promote and control peacetime development of atomic science and technology. The position of power gave his arguments authority. He discouraged the U.S. from participating in the arms race. He spoke out against the high-secrecy policy of the Atomic Energy Commission by opposing and temporarily slowing the development of the hydrogen bomb. On October 30, 1949, in a report of the General Advisory Committee, Oppenheimer and his fellow members said, "We believe a superbomb should never be produced. Mankind would be far better off not to have a demonstration of the feasibility of such a weapon, until the present climate of world opinion changes." After the war, Oppenheimer's detractors accused him of being a security threat due to his affiliations with the Communist Party. During the Red Scare, President Eisenhower banned his security clearance in 1954. Henry Smith, commissioner of the Atomic Energy Commission, believed that Oppenheimer was innocent. He said, "I prefer the positive statement that Dr. Oppenheimer's further employment will continue to strengthen the United States. I therefore have voted to reinstate Dr. Oppenheimer's clearance." Others who opposed Oppenheimer, including Lewis Strauss and Edward Teller, voted against him. According to one of his former graduate students, Edward Gurdjieff, Strauss just wanted to get rid of him. His confident and opinionated personality earned him some enemies in the scientific world. These enemies took the opportunity to damage Oppenheimer's career and strip him of his political and scientific influence. Due to emerging McCarthyism, his communist affiliations, and his controversial actions before and during the war, Oppenheimer's security clearance was revoked and he was removed from government. There was no evidence, however, that he had given out confidential information. Out of mere suspicion of communist membership, Oppenheimer's enemies were able to rid themselves of Oppenheimer's presence. Without security clearance, his efforts to stop nuclear development were largely unsuccessful, which hindered the great possibilities of his later years. Henry Smith remarked that, "In these times, failure to employ a man of great talents may impair the strength and power of this country." While Oppenheimer wanted to fix the political problems in the U.S., his leftist political leanings did not affect his work. He had been asked by several friends, such as Haakon Chevalier, to share information, but he always refused. Exposure to suffering students during the Great Depression led Oppenheimer to adopt a liberal political stance, hoping that government could help society. But soon after the war, Stalin's brutal dictatorship made it clear that communism was not a feasible solution for the U.S. He felt naive for his leftist political beliefs in the 1940s, for he was not well suited for politics. Oppenheimer's actions in directing the Manhattan Project and later protesting nuclear development show that his legacy is more complex than his epithet as father of the atomic bomb. His struggle over the morality and ethics of the bomb is representative of society's complex relationship with scientific advancement. While scientific progress continues at an ever more rapid pace, often society is conflicted over the ethical and moral issues of such research. These issues not only include nuclear weapons, but such developments as stem cell research, genetically modified crops, and global warming. Oppenheimer and his personal struggles are precursors to these modern conflicts. His legacy shows that scientific advancement often raises sharp ethical and moral debates within society. Oppenheimer's legacy is the essential struggle of society with ethical and moral implications of scientific advancement.